Hi guys, today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think a lot of people talk about it and people like me and the Aam Aadmi has no idea what it actually means. To be honest, until I saw Chat GPT and started using it, my mind got blown. And I wasn't the only one. There were thousands and thousands, perhaps millions of people who actually used it and thought, damn, this is crazy. So I thought, why don't we understand? What's the future of AI? What can happen? And are our jobs actually at risk? And I have this amazing friend and person, Atin. I met him almost 10 years ago, and I've actually written this down. He worked on Apple's first Apple Watch, the AI ML part of it, and the software. He then moved to Uber, where he built Michelangelo along with a team of 20 people. So every time you used Uber, whether it is booking a ride, whether ordering Uber Eats or driver matching, it all used these AI ML models. And Atin was telling me this was called something else back then. Maybe he'll tell us what it was. And then he moved on to create his own company, founded one called Galileo, which basically works on AI ML models again. So his career spans 13 years in the industry. Hi, Atin. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Pratik. And so nice to be chatting with you here on this platform. And thanks for having me.
Dude, so let's start with ChatGPT. I used it, it blew my mind. In fact, a lot of us are using it at the office as well for certain things. It's a really nice assistant, but it's kind of scary. I mean, it feels like you're talking to a human. So are jobs at risk? And what do you think about that?
That's a good question. So just a little bit of history on ChatGPT itself. The ChatGPT, in essence, is a large language model. And the model's based on this particular piece of technology that was built in 2017 in the Google Brain team called Transformers. And Transformers was this paradigm shift in language technologies that happened in 2017, before which NLP was pretty much a dead stick as far as the industry was concerned. It was a $0 industry because deep learning and some of these other AI methods back then just did not perform well on text data. So this invention of the transformer opened up NLP and converted it into a multi-trillion-dollar market. And ChatGPT is one of the first initial manifestations of that technology.
Interesting. And maybe that's why it sounds like a human, because it's using the information that was fed in by all of us, right? By humanity. It probably crawled the web, understood how we speak, and that's why it sounds like an actual human.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you ask an interesting question about whether ChatGPT would replace or obviate jobs. So the process of training a large language model is this very elaborate process of going through multiple phases of training the particular transformer model on pretty much all of the data on the internet, and then using other techniques like prompt engineering to be able to fine-tune specific aspects of that model. And this whole elaborate process involves a lot of humans and many months and hours of training this particular model. So as far as jobs are concerned, my take has been that just the creation of models like ChatGPT has resulted in a new set of jobs like prompt engineers to be able to do new invent new techniques to be able to train these models. And on top of that, ChatGPT itself is a product of a company called OpenAI. And the model itself is a private, or what we call open or closed weights model. And that means that the model itself is a black box and you have to pay to use it. But then similar models which are free of cost. And I kind of draw the parallels to the App Store, which was invented back in 2007. And that enabled so many engineers and developers to build their own apps. So the same trends are happening in language modeling and large language models, where you can build amazing applications on top of ChatGPT like models, which are available for free, which you can download on your laptop. So there'll be a new slew of jobs which would emerge as a result of this this particular technology.
I mean, I think AI and ML engineers such as yourself understand what the future could be, but I think humans generally, right, we can understand sequential growth, but we can't understand exponential growth. It's just beyond human thinking, right? And I think ChatGPT basically told us the possibilities. What was scary though is that generally we understand is that the AI model will basically read the internet, understand the kind of questions, understand acceptable answers, and push out something that feels like a machine, right? I mean, we've all used a chat bot on a website, and everyone feels it's a bot, right? Everyone hates it. I don't know anyone who loves it. But this actually had nuances and understood context. It understood implication. It understood certain things like I did not explicitly mention something, it still picked it up from pop culture and brought it in, which was acceptable. Now, these nuances have always been thought the difference between a robot and a human. And the moment that gets blurred, people freak out. And I think that's what happened, right? Because when we start defining what makes us human, I think it's context, reference, it's tonality, it's emotions, it's understanding the blurred lines between 0 and 1 and saying there's a gray as well. And we assume machines can never cross that line. That's what makes us human, right? And when you say language model, and this was able to do it, I'm not sure what will happen over the next 10 years. It feels like, Atin, that a lot more jobs will be created, yes, but only for the white-collar worker. And just like from agrarian society to industrial revolution to now, the white-collar workers' jobs have increased and the blue-collar workers' jobs have decreased. This is interesting. Now, do you think that the blue-collar will eventually become the white-collar 50 years from now? Or there's a different kind of blue-collar that will emerge? What do you think about automation and just like the human hand doing stuff?
No, that's a great question. I certainly do think that one of the manifestations of evolution and progress is the fact that some of our more bluer collar jobs get automated through technology, but that results in better jobs needing to solve better problems for the masses at large emerge. And just to quote one particular example, just with this advent of AI and ML in general, data labeling has emerged as a blue-collar job, which hundreds of thousands of labelers are earning their wage through labeling, because ML and AI requires labeled data. There's one particular branch of machine learning called supervised ML, which require where there's a need for labeled data, and there's many people who are earning their wages through that. Now, that said, there's advancements in algorithmic labeling which will eventually obviate the need for labelers themselves, but that would lead to a new slew of jobs. So I feel like the manifestation of progress is always that you eliminate a certain set of jobs for the overall betterment of society, but that leads to a new slew of jobs being created, which is just solving better problems.
Yeah, this is amazing. So labeling data is a blue-collar job. This is very interesting. This is basically categorized data, and I think supervised learning is when you tell, the end result, and the machine is trying to understand how you got to that point with categorized data and not unstructured data. Interesting.
I do feel like because the landscape's always evolving, and particularly with technology, the rate of that evolution has increased. My belief is that to sort of stay ahead of the curve, it's almost impossible to predict the future, and anyone who tells you is lying. But what's important is to equip yourselves with certain more abstract set of skills, which I like to call like fishing skills. For example, strategic thinking, and just the ability to solve problems, just look around you and being able to have that foresight to see inefficiencies around you and being able to be a problem solver. Those are the kind of skills you should focus on. Be an analytical thinker. And I call it the fishing skills because it's almost like if you learn fishing, then the art of cooking a specific meal becomes much easier once you know how to fish. So those are the more important skills to focus on, and the younger generation should certainly upskill themselves on these broad set of skills where apps like yours come in and they help teach the right things to the younger generation.
Yeah. Until the time that there's a camera which has ML vision, looking at a problem and using some language model telling us what the issue is, with the problem solver model solving that problem and telling us what to do. Hopefully, founders get to keep their jobs.
It does make sense. I truly feel like there's too much entropy in just all the processes of the world for to make such a broad statement that an AI model will be able to replace pretty much everything that we do. Because it's kind of counterintuitive as well, because the whole hallmark of human progress is to do things we haven't done, and ML primarily based on the past.
Oh, this is interesting. So it's like, I'm getting super geeky. It's like Star Trek. Our job is to sail that ship to the outer boundaries of space, and all the mundane tasks are taken over by technology. But that's the history of the world anyway. I don't think any of us go to the farm, pick up fruits, and then come back and light a fire, right? I think all of that has been automated thanks to a lot of technology. So I guess nothing's really changed.
Yeah, that's correct. And part of it is also our, I think, collective responsibility to sort of make sure that we direct society in the right way. Because I think my purview is that, let AI help, solve the mundane things. And at some point, the definition of mundane also evolves. So hopefully, AI is solving harder and harder problems as we evolve. But then as humans, we always stay ahead of the curve, and we are thinking of better problems to solve, which AI cannot do.
Let's talk about AI for better governance of a country like India.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very hard, deep, and a very interesting question, because I personally do think that India is in a very unique position and pretty strategically advantageous position compared to the rest of the world in many ways, apart from the usual facts that it's very diverse and the kind of people in India. I do feel like the biggest strength of the country is the youth of the country, and the fact that a large chunk of the youth of the world will come from this country. And AI is sort of this field which is about learning and from the data of the past to be able to optimize and make smarter decisions about the future. And given India's scale, I feel like AI is sort of the perfect weapon in the country's armor to be channeled for the good, whether it's planning the allocation and the budgeting around schools, or our sanitation processes, or just smartly utilizing our capital towards some of these fundamental institutions. I think AI will enable just much better informed decisions towards the growth of the country. And growth essentially starts with these fundamental things, right? Like good schools, clean water, and agriculture, where there's immense scope for using AI to avoid wastage. So some of these problems are of course more general in nature, in that they apply to other countries too, but I do feel like India stands to gain the most from it, and AI will certainly play a very key role in that.
I think it's interesting that a lot to do with governance and is administration, which essentially means collecting information, allocating it, dividing it, and then pushing it out, right? But the precipice of a good governance happens from the decisions that we take. And if the data actually doesn't make any sense, or is too open-ended, you can't make good decisions, which what you were earlier saying humans are good at. If we're able to actually digitize everything we do in the country so that models like this can actually give us better information and people making decisions can make better decisions, as an assistant, it seems we will far outpace other countries. So I see what you're saying now. The AI isn't making the decisions. At the end of the day, it's us making the decisions. But how we make it, which goes into modeling. So I think that is one shift, right? People imagine AI is this guy who'll come out and be like, sit down, and then we sit. But that's not exactly what this is. It's the opposite.
In many ways, AI is a remnant of your past. So it's almost like looking at a time machine of all the decisions that you've made in the past, and here's this bot who has learned all those decisions and stands right in front of you.
Wow. Okay, that certainly changed the way I see AI. Interesting. Okay. I think they also said technology is something that breaks. If it works, then it's not technology. It's just stuff everyone uses. So I guess the next question is, okay. Will AI create monopolies? Will it make monopolies stronger? Or will it make small businesses stronger? Like, will AI support either or more? Yeah, I think that's the question.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great question. And I think, AI and just software in general, has evolved to become, one of the great equalizers in terms of, de-establishing these monopolies. Because if you even turn the time back 16 years ago, before the advent of things like the App Store, it was only the elite companies who would build software for the rest of the world to use. But after 2007, anyone sitting at home was empowered to build an app that could potentially change the world. And the same paradigm exists in AI, where there's these machine learning models have become completely democratized. There's Chat GPT equivalent large language models, which are available on free platforms like Stable Diffusion and Hugging Face, and that are literally anyone can download on their laptop, and they can build something amazing on top of that. And that is power for you. And even to quote my own company as an example, which is a very young company, but we're still able to, help very large Fortune 500 companies, build better AI to solve very key problems. So I believe the playing field is becoming more and more even. But that said, it will again come down to us sort of ensuring that, the laws and the protocols that disable the creation of such monopolies are always put in place, and that we're electing the right leaders who make these decisions. And that's how you can prevent laws, establish laws that prevent bad things from happening. And that is something that will never and should never change.
That's interesting. I think what you're implying is that the bigger threat is a bad leader versus a bad AI, at least for now. An asshole leader is just going to be more asshole. I think.
Yeah, I don't think I could have put it any better. You're absolutely right.
That's interesting. Finally, this is interesting. Can AI help us tackle climate change? Ooh.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. I think AI is likely the most powerful tool to help combat climate change. And this is, because solving the climate change problem as big as it is, it comes down to essentially monitoring, data, trends of data, and optimizing, the thousands of these, processes that help transfer goods and services and humans from one point of the world to the other, and enabling, like behavioral change at a personal level as well. Whether it's just predicting the rain tomorrow, so to automatically turn off your lawn sprinklers, from turning on tonight, and or enabling your home to automatically turn off your lights when you leave the apartment. It's some of those things which add up. And there's so many other things today which are unoptimized, and AI is in a perfect position to solve those problems. And there's already solutions in the market, and they will keep getting better and better with time. So that's one aspect of tackling climate change. And the other aspect is also the fact that AI has predictive power. I keep saying that it's based on past trends. You predict the future trends. And that is something that's also very critical to employ in things like tracking, forest encroachments, or, monitoring epidemics, and being able to do scenario modeling to be able to create vaccines in a few weeks as opposed to a few years. So all those things are unthinkable today, and it's very much possible, the use of AI.
Never thought of that. I actually, while you were writing, I was scribbling, if it takes past data and predicts the future, it's basically extrapolation, right? So is that so useful? But then as soon as you said, when you're tracking stuff where extrapolation actually helps, like tracking disease, water usage, etc. Yes, of course, grain storage, of course, right? Of course that helps. You don't need to add critical thinking, they just need correct data come out 6 months before so you can prepare so that calamity doesn't happen in the near future. That's perfect, Atin. The other question is, how do you tackle biases coded in the AI? Because at the end of the day, the model's written by a insan. The data coming in is produced by humans, therefore riddled with biases that you can't even imagine, right? Right from a male writing something to color, race, to country, to climate, to the political situation. It's all baked inside seemingly 0-1 data on an Excel sheet, but actually has a lot of bias. So, I mean, how do you solve that?
No, that's a great question. And bias has, multiple definitions. For example, a natural imbalance in the data also fits the definition of a bias. But then there's more serious definitions of biases which have more, drastic consequences, such as racial bias or gender bias. And data in the real world, as it occurs naturally, is more often than not hidden with these sort of hidden biases. But generating unbiased data for AI is very important, because an AI model is only as good as the data you feed it. And blindly training an AI model with data will lead to a biased model, which will cause very bad outcomes. So the removal of bias comes down to eliminating these kind of hidden imbalances in your data and gathering the right, amounts of highly diverse data, and ensuring your model is learning equally well from all the data that you've trained it with. That's where a tool like Galileo actually comes in very handy, in which it automatically detects and eliminates these imbalances, and also suggests what other data to add to your data set, and ensures that the model's learning equally well on all of your data. And this enables any AI developer to almost scientifically curate unbiased data for your AI model.
Interesting. So that's what your company does. It removes biases from data. So it's not actually creating AI models. The data scientists create the AI models. You guys make sure that the data itself is clean enough or unbiased so that the model actually does its job. Is that what it is?
No, absolutely. But the interesting thing there is that in order to determine what's biased and what's not, we extract signals from the model itself to make decisions about the data and tell you where the model is doing well and not doing well. So in that sense, we leverage the model's training dynamics and the training signals as it's learning on the data to make decisions about the data itself.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. The next question I'll just coast into is, what's the AI impact on finance and fintech? I'm gonna start with an answer and then Atin can complete. Dude, you talked about looking at the past. You talked about extrapolation and prediction. You talked about biases. You just described the stock market, okay? Which is basically humans trying to figure shit out, which we are sure they will not figure out, right? And there will always be arbitrage opportunities, which is basically what it should be and what it is. And that difference are profit opportunities, which is why the future of all trading is quant trading. Quantitative finance, which I'm sure you know, but for the people watching this, exactly what we've been talking about applied to stock markets, find biases, problems, patterns that keep happening. And by the way, these problems happen exactly because of the problem that Galileo is solving, biases. Humans will be fearful in certain situations, and prices will move to certain extremes and they can be taken advantage of. That's why the best hedge funds in the world are quantitative in nature. There's no technical analyst, for example, who's running a hedge fund. If he is, he's also using quantitative finance to make his trades stronger. Then I feel this isn't a conversation we're going to have like once every year. I feel something else will happen in the next 6-7 months. And maybe we'll talk about that more specifically next time. My takeaways were very simple. I think there were 3 things that I learned. One, if you love your job and if you love your job, you'll do critical thinking, you'll do leadership, you'll do research, you'll explore the edges and boundaries and do something freaking new. This is your best insurance to actually have a healthy mental life and also a great career ahead of you. So maybe the old adage of loving your job is actually true. And you should probably just stick to that. Like, just look at Atin. Like, he's just so happy talking about ML and all of this. This is not work for him right now, right? It's probably 11 o'clock at night in the US right now, and he loves it, right? Same here. I love to talk, and therefore, well. The second thing I learned is that AI is basically a remnant of your past. I loved when you said that. That it's basically taking data from the past, finding, removing biases, etc. But it's also automating your tasks, making your life easier so that you don't have to do the same analysis again and again. It's doing it for you. But it is limited because each model is different and it won't look into the future. That's our job as humans. It's an assistant. So I think in the Industrial Revolution, we had machines helping us. These are also machines, except they're made of zeros and ones and not atoms. So I think that's interesting. Nothing has really changed. Our parents had technology disrupt them. We, on the other hand, have technology disrupt us, but a little more often because it's exponential. And the third thing I actually learned is that you should be watching podcasts like this to learn what to do in the future. And skills are more important than you just being a machine in a massive company or an organization. You should do something cutting edge. Anything else you want to say, Atin? Did I miss anything?
No, I just want to say the fourth thing is that initiatives like LearnApp are those shape-shifting pieces of technology, and I'm personally so excited about products like yours because they enable people to learn new things, learn in a new way, more efficiently, more practically, things which are not taught in some of our established institutes. So I see systems like yours and companies like yours as those trailblazing companies which are paving the way for the future. So I'm a big fan of LearnApp, and everyone should use LearnApp.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Atin. See you again, man.
See you again. Thanks so much, Pratik.